Bryan Danielson, injured yet again. So, Bryan Danielson wrestled on AEW Dynamite last week after sustaining a broken orbital bone 4 nights earlier on AEW Collision.
Now, what bone is broken? You have to demonstrate to me. Here.
Eye socket. Oh, hang on, my thing's going weird. Yeah.
That's the orbital bone here.
Yeah.
Over the eye or below the eye, does it matter?
It might be internal. 1 sec. I'll double check. So, just as I pause then, Dutch is making fun of me by saying internal bone. And quite rightly said, they're all internal. Well done there, Dutch. No, when I was saying internal, I meant it like didn't protrude through the skin. I was actually thinking like behind the eye, like the eye socket, back of the eye socket. Anyway, I'm looking here now. It's basically one of the ridges around the eye, I think, orbital bone. So
one of those got broken.
Yes, he's receiving surgery. Sports Illustrated reported that he was not injured on Dynamite last week, but rather he worked that match with a broken orbital bone, but he didn't actually do much in it for obvious reasons. He actually broke his orbital, yes.
Have you noticed something different about me today?
No.
Are you kidding me?
No. I see. Many people are asking if you're just going to nibble it.
So listen, if there was a murder happening and you missed a big thing like this,
well, I'd go as the guy with the massive mustache. It's like, well, did he have a cigar in his mouth? It's like, no, it's the guy with the huge mustache who committed the murder of Captain Ed George, or George Goulas.
Okay, continue.
Where was I going? Anyway, he got an injured, freak injury with Andrade on Collision the week beforehand. Poor Danielson. Poor Bryan. This is he had a concussion that kept him out for a bit. Then he broke his forearm in a match with Okada.
Concussions, seriously. You know how many concussions I probably had without knowing I had one?
Well, really? I mean, what do you define as a concussion? Because that definition changes over time.
Well, if you get knocked out, which I have numerous times, well, not that many times, but I can remember at least 3 or maybe 4. It's serious. That's a concussion.
That is not what a concussion is. I mean, it can be, but a concussion is.
Folks, you see, now, this is my definition, wait a minute, of a concussion. If you get knocked out, that's a concussion.
You can get knocked out without getting concussed.
I can't.
Okay.
I'm different.
The point is, they define a concussion these days as essentially almost like any rattling of the brain. You can have like micro concussions by like heading a ball, something like that. But concussions are generally sort of...
Here's something you didn't know.
Go on.
Girls soccer, when they spear the ball or head the ball or whatever they do, that not only causes... It can knock them silly.
Yeah.
But it hurts the neck because the male neck is stronger and they have a lot of neck injuries. Have you ever read that?
No.
Have you ever heard that?
No.
Well, you've heard it now. So
there you go.
The next time you carry on a conversation, you could throw that in there. Whether it's true or not, it's just for conversation.
Essentially, for concussions, brain is rattling around and hitting the skull inside. So, I mean, the more severe that happens, the more severe the concussion, I imagine. Sticking with Bryan Danielson, he's already given himself a self-imposed retirement date of some point in later 2024. Now he's going to be out for 2-3 months. It's like, is this just... I mean, it's clearly a run of bad luck, but Bryan Danielson... How can you get behind Bryan Danielson now when you know he's only got maybe 8-9 months worth of work left in him after he recovers from this?
Well, people forget that. Just start something with an opponent, tell a good story. Now the people don't want to see you go. If it's a compelling enough story, and if it is compelling enough and drawing money, Tony hopefully might extend him longer, and to get the full effect of it and the full effect of his possibly profitable run. There's a lot of things that can happen in a year.
Well, I want to clarify. I don't mean the fans. I mean a booker. So if you think, well, this guy's only going to be around for 8 months now, I mean, what do you do with
Still
him?
that. Well, I'd do something to it. I'd do a hot angle with him right off the bat.
Yeah.
When he comes back. And then the people, again, I've been around it enough. People are going to forget that you've put a self-imposed exit from the company. They're going to forget that. And don't have your announcers. See, people are reminded about things by the announcers. Well, he better, if he wins the title, he's going to retire. And, that's reminding them. And that's becoming, and here's a question you may not know. Who are the bookers in NFL football? Who really calls those angles? Who do you think?
If there was someone who match made, you're asking the wrong person to. I have no idea.
Well, it's the same as soccer, but it's the announcers. The announcers put that thought in the people's heads, and they go with it. So
you wouldn't harp on about it then? You would say, he's retiring this many months, but, he's got business to do first. He wants to do this. He wants to achieve this title run, that kind of thing. You'd ignore you'd ignore the retirement impending.
I wouldn't ignore it totally, but you got to throw it in there because he said that. So if he wins, is he still retiring? See, a lot of things like that, but I wouldn't beat it to death. But see, there's a lot of things they can do with that. I kind of like the idea. I wish I was there to help them kind of book this, because I would just, you got to take what the audience gives you. You got to take what Bryan Danielson gives you. And then you kind of mesh and mold that idea together, put him with a good opponent, keep him with a good opponent. And I think you can get big time mileage out of Bryan Danielson from right now to the time he stops.
That's a good point you brought up there, is keep him with an opponent. Yeah, keep him with an opponent, because what he's doing at the moment, or was doing at the moment, Bryan Danielson's wrestling like a new person every week for the sake of, I suppose he wants to wrestle them before he retires. But you've said, no, let's not do this retirement tour of everyone gets a go. No, you shove him in a hot angle and you keep him with one opponent. And I don't think many people would actually. This is why you're a booker.
Well, every angle has a shelf life. That's why could angles go in Florida and the Carolinas and Memphis and Texas for months and months and months?
Because they didn't give everything away on TV every week, I imagine, for starters.
Well, that's one thing, but they told the story. And your big stars, let me explain it like this. Bruno, when he got in a big angle, they brought these heels in, and this is the way Memphis ran. This is the way Florida ran, Carolina. They would have a top resident babyface. The resident babyface in Florida for years was Dusty Rhodes. He was the king. In Memphis, it was Jerry Lawler. In Texas, it was the Von Erichs. In New York, it was Bruno. And in Charlotte, it wasn't a resident babyface. It was actually a resident heel. It was Flair. But it ran much the same way. So they would just bring in these, and this was the days before cable, before you saw all these other guys. A lot of people in Memphis have told me till the Superstation came along, they didn't know there was wrestling anywhere else in the country. They didn't know they had wrestling in Texas. Mm-hmm. And they didn't know they had wrestling in New York and all these other places. But if they've never seen these people, say you were bringing, let me go back to him. If you were bringing a big heel to Memphis to challenge Lawler, well, before he finished an angle with the last big challenge, a big heel, you would start running these clips of coming soon, coming soon, coming soon. and Jimmy Hart was going to manage this guy. It was some big 6'8", 300-pound guy that was the monster. It was almost like Lawler was the dragon killer.
Mm-hmm.
So this was the next dragon to come in. And as soon as he finished the angle with the last heel he had, they would, within the next 2 weeks, they would shoot another one with the new guy. And then the new guy would take the title. And then Lawler would lay out for 2 weeks, a couple of weeks, wherever, or whatever. And then he would beat underneath, talent. Like he would beat Bill Dundee and Steve Kern, and then he'd beat somebody else. And he'll say, "Did he beat you, Dutch?" See, I was actually so far down the list by the time he got through beating those other guys, they wasn't time to beat me. So a lot of times they didn't beat me. And you could almost on your calendar, if it was, say, he came in January, by September his run's over. Now he can stay, but he actually hurts himself on the next run around. And his big money days are gone because he's already went to Lawler and they've already blown it off. And now there's a time for another big heel to start. So you actually hurt the heel when he stays longer than he should. Bruno, on the other hand, he stayed 8 years the champion.
Mm-hmm.
But they ran such big towns. They ran like the Garden, and they ran Boston and Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and Baltimore and all those in Pittsburgh. They ran all those big towns, and they just run them once a month. So they would draw a huge house in all those cities. So, and you can imagine some of the paydays some of those guys got if they were paying them even halfway decent, which is another thing we have to talk about. But what was the original question?
No, sorry about Daniel Bryan. I am going to
Daniel Bryan. Okay, Daniel Bryan. I think he's a lot of life left in him, even if he gave the self-imposed exit date.